Started.
Yes. Who wants to chant? Megha? We'll start from here. Sahana Bhavatu, now we'll start doing again for some time. You can do that, Megha?
I think so.
Yeah, great.
ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Excellent. We will later on, there are some Sandhi rules for this chanting. Maybe later on, make a note of it. We will do that also. So then your chanting would be absolutely as per the tradition. This is also acceptable, but there are alternative chanting rules, like when you see a visarga between followed by a sh, then the visarga becomes sh. So if you hear me chanting, you will see me chanting shanti shanti shanti.
They get connected.
So we'll do that another time. At the moment, so continue.
वासुदेवेन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनं नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्.
Excellent.
साधनचतुष्टय सम्पन्न अधिकारिणा मोक्षसाधनभूतं तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारं वक्ष्यामः. साधनचतुष्टयं किम्? नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः इहामुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः शमादिषट्कसम्पत्तिः मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति. नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः कः? नित्यवस्तुविवेकं ब्रह्म तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वमनित्यम् अयमेव नित्यवस्तुविवेकः. विरागः कः? इह स्वर्गभोगेषु इच्छाराहित्यम् इहामुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः समाधिसाधनसम्पत्तिः का? शमोदम उपरतिस्तितिक्षा श्रद्धा समाधानं च इति.
Firstly, why is it ka? Because sampattihi is feminine, so that's why ka is feminine.
Okay.
So otherwise the meaning is the same, kaha, ka. So shamadhi sadhana sampattihi ka.
समाधिसाधन सम्पत्तिः का?
Shamodama uparatihi.
शमोदम उपरतिः उपरतिः
तितिक्षा श्रद्धा समाधानं च इति.
तितिक्षा श्रद्धा समाधानं च इति
Continue.
शमः कः मनोनिग्रहः मनोनिग्रहः दमः कः चक्षुरादिबाहेन्द्रिय निग्रहः
चक्षुरादि बाह्येन्द्रिय निग्रहः
चक्षुरादिबाह्येन्द्रिय निग्रहः उपरमः कः स्वधर्मानुष्ठानमेव
स्वधर्मानुष्ठानमेव
स्वधर्मानुष्ठानमेव तितिक्षा का शीतोष. This is not complicated.
I'll do it. Shitoshna sukha dukkhadi.
What was the shito and then how do you pronounce those two together? Shan.
Sh half and na.
Shaha and la. Okay. Shito shahana sukh dukkhadi.
No, it's not a full sh.
It's adha.
Shitoshna.
Shitoshna sukh dukkhadi sahishnu tvam.
Shitoshna sukha dukkhadi sahishnutvam.
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखादि सहिष्णुत्वम्
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखादि सहिष्णुत्वम्
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखादि सहिष्णुत्वम्
श्रद्धा कीदृशी गुरु वेदांत वाक्यादिषु विश्वासः
गुरु वेदांत वाक्यादिषु विश्वासः गुरु वेदांत वाक्यादिषु गुरु वेदांत वाक्यादिषु विश्वासः
समाधानं
किम्
चित्तैकाग्रता Great, thank you, excellent. So we are on the topic of Samadama Adi Shatka Sampattihi, and always remember from the very beginning, the very first thing that you keep in mind with reference to this portion is that this is called Sampattihi. It is your inner wealth. It is absolutely your inner richness, which is necessary for your, in generalized terms, spiritual growth. And if you want to translate what is spiritual growth, then just understand it as Shanti, Man ki Shanti. This Man ki Shanti can be relative up to the point of absolute. So how much are you able to hold Man mein Shanti with reference to all things in life, situations, circumstances, people, loss, disease, death, birth, all things that happen in life to everyone in common. How does one retain Man ki Shanti, the peace in the mind? There are many relative methods people adopt, but they're all very temporary. So you do find that by doing some technique or the other, you may be peaceful for a short period of time. Things like distract yourself, and people do all kinds of things. Like some people used to say that they just go shopping if they're upset, and so people find their own methods of quietening their mind. But these are not the methods that grow you spiritually. The method with which you actually retain the peace of mind is something which helps you to grow. What I'm using in a very generalized word as spiritual grow. Spiritually grow means you are growing permanently, means you are developing those aspects in you which contribute directly to a sustained mental peace. The mind is going to be transforming itself. The mind will undergo deliberate changes that you would employ with your choice and your will under the guidance of what Shastra shows as is your true nature, which is absolute peace. If you take an absolute peace as your nature, and you take your today's situation or circumstances or today's state of mind, from that absolute peace that you're supposed to be every moment, every minute, changelessly there. What is your nature? Your nature is absolute peace. We are supposed to be exhibiting absolute peace throughout life. But keep that as an idealistic state. Keep that as the goal. Keep that as what Shastra says is my nature, and assess that in my present state of mind. When I assess the present state of mind, I see the contrast. I see how much is my present state a dependent state of peace. And that peace generally is not even taken as peace, it is taken as a state of happiness. I want to be sustained happy person. I want happiness which is sustainable. I want happiness that I see through, and that happiness is all that I call for as a peaceful thing or as a happy life, because I associate happiness as joy, as what I am wanting. That's all I associate. But Shastra says, we hold the attitude of Shastra as our, you call it guru, you call it maa-baap, you call it that which is your hitkari. There is only one hitkari. Hitkari means someone who's so benevolent that they only have your goodwill in their mind. Shastra, scripture, Indian, here I'm talking of Vedic Shastra and Vedanta in specific because that's our topic, is hitkari, means is the only benevolent source of information and knowledge. It is so benevolent that whatever it says only in the interest of the learner. So what am I really finding? I want some sort of a peace. When you're disturbed, we all take today, actually, when you say peace, it almost sounds like a word, cliche. It sounds like a jargon. मन की शांति इतना सुनते हैं आजकल हम लोग कि ऐसे लगता है कि it's almost artificial. मन की शांति, because a certain degree of disturbance of the mind is become a norm. एक restlessness of the mind, a certain degree of ashantata in oneself is almost taken as a part of life. मतलब थोड़ी बहुत disturbance तो जिंदगी का, you can't escape it. Shastra says most benevolent part of its teaching is that you by nature is essentially a peaceful creature. I'm using the word creature only with the limited meaning. It wants to address the disturbed person. It wants to address the disturbed mankind. It's not addressing an animal whose nest I just removed. And that animal is also disturbed because I just removed a bird nest. The bird must be as disturbed as probably when my home gets broken. But the Shastra is not talking to the bird. The Shastra is addressing mankind. I have always preferred to use man animal. Amongst all living creatures, we are one of them. To us is said the gradation of difference between other living creatures and the human creature is that to us is said your inner nature, your true nature is absolute peace, Shanti. That Shanti to reclaim back, to rediscover back. Today, or whenever we are in life, we find that a certain state of disturbance is our acceptable state. We don't question our disturbances. We don't question the root of our disturbance. We do not question, why am I disturbed? We do not question, is disturbance natural? We are actually questioning, how do I get peace? Definitely. And we adopt certain methods that just become hit and try. कुछ कुछ कर लेते हैं, कभी successful होता है, कभी नहीं होता है. Most of the people would find that to avoid disturbed states, you should be with friends, you should watch movies, you should have parties, you should go meet. You do something or the other so that the disturbance is never so loud to you that you get to see it. What is spiritual growth? Spiritual growth is discovering quietude, which is your own nature. Discovering the tranquility, the inner peace. And that is what is the whole spiritual process. किसी भी religion में ले लो, whatever religion is worth it, every religion on the planet must be addressing the same thing. How to get back your own tranquility. Most of the religions do not address it in a living state, after death or in a future life or somewhere, some condition. Vedanta, and in particular Advaita Vedanta, addresses it while you're alive. Now, here, at this point of life also, wherever one is, you can have connection, or you can be absolutely tranquil. Unconditionally is the right word. But to discover that back is now, how much have I moved arbitrarily away from that state? It's only arbitrary moving. It's not a real moving away. But how much do I find myself a disturbed person today? That much will I need practices of unwrapping, unfolding. It's like the chocolate layers, those, you have wrappers, and then sometimes, as for children, we used to do that, when you give them gifts sometimes and you want to give them a surprise gift. So ek ke andar, ek ke andar, ek ke andar, ek ke andar. So you send a huge big gift to someone and you open it, and then there's another box, and you open it, there's another box, and you open it, there's another box, and you open it, there's another box, and it goes on till you find actually just a small, tiny thing inside. It could just be a small chocolate, or it could be a diamond ring. It could be anything inside, but it's a very small thing. But the whole wrapper, the whole big box outside was actually just a camouflage. That is the state of mind. How much have you actually moved away from that central point? How big has the world and the issues become to you? How big has your unhappiness or your whatever you're searching, or what? How big has this become to the mind? That big is actually just khali dabbe. Shastra says ये सब khali dabbe हैं. You only have to remove them. कितने डब्बे बनाए? Some people may have 5 dabbas, means this is just an arbitrary word, doesn't literally mean anything, only an example. Some people may have made few things that are held on in the mind as important, real, which disturb them. And some people may have made lot of things in their mind which are lot of, so their disturbance is almost momentary to momentary. एक चीज खत्म होती नहीं दूसरी डिस्टर्ब करती है, फिर एक खत्म होती नहीं दूसरी डिस्टर्ब करती है. So no, the shanti is also very, very short-lived and very, very temporary, to such an extent that many people don't even get a full sleep as peaceful sleep. Why? Because the restlessness or the disturbance of the mind. We started today by saying, remember the word sampatti. These are those practices that contribute to such huge levels, I can't exaggerate enough. They contribute so much to the inner peace of the person, and that is what we said is spiritual growth. That which helps you खाली डब्बों को निकालना, अपने खाली डब्बे इकट्ठे किए हुए उनको निकालना. These are shama, dama, adi, shatak, sampatti, six-fold. Six-fold means one moves into the other, one helps the other, one adds to the other, one supports the other. All of these are actually supportive of developing a mind. I used in one of the previous classes the word culture. You are culturing the mind. Supposing I want to grow something in a soil, and I want to grow, say, an indoor plant, which doesn't need a very heavy soil. It needs porous soil. It needs more moss. It needs more air in the soil. But I am using hard soil. I've packed it up. If I've packed it up, even if I get the best quality plant, the very culture in which I want to grow it, that culture is imperfect. That culture is defective. My attention should first go to the soil culture. Is the soil correct for the kind of plant that I want to grow? If I'm taking care of the soil first, can I just grow any plant and still get the same nice plant out? No, there are two different efforts. One effort is make sure that your soil is correct according to the plant that you want to create. Second thing is get the right quality plant in the right culture of the soil. Similarly, mind in itself is that which is a culture, soil culture, equatable to the soil culture. If your mind is not cultured well, then however much you may hear that you are the truth, you are absolute peace, you are infinite, you are birthless, you are deathless, you are changeless, you are Brahman, you are kitna bhi sun loge, the thought that you are hearing, which is priceless, supposing Vedanta, I as a person would say is priceless. I can't equate it. That hearing is priceless. However much I may have that priceless hearing, the culture is not going to hold it. The thoughts that I hear are not going to get planted. They're not going to get the roots. Why? Because my mind hasn't been cultured. I haven't gone through the practice of culturing. I haven't put in the effort to culture the mind. That culturing of the mind Because mind is so subtle, as I said in the previous classes, mind is not something that I can just pinpoint. Soil is easy to culture, but mind I cannot pinpoint most of the times. How do I culture the mind? For which Vedic Shastra gives us all these practices first through its Karmakand path, all the religious practices. Indirectly, they culture the mind, but in Vedanta, the direct culturing of the mind comes through these qualities. It's a very essential part of Vedantic study. Many people, most people, I'm on record now, I may be generalizing it, but you would find 99% of the people underestimate the importance of values before learning Vedanta. They think, most of the people presume, learning Vedanta means learning it's a study. It's just pad lo, samajh lo, and I'm done. I know this Upanishad, I know the Gita, I know the etc. etc. And now I know Vedanta. You would know Vedanta, of course, but is that Vedantic knowledge contributing to your absolute peace? Is it making you unfold, uncover the layers that you are able to tap into a shantata that your swabhav is, that you have connected to it, that you have reclaimed back? Maximum number of times, yes, Vedanta does help. It's not a useless, futile exercise, but the correct method is already given in Vedanta. That is why you find most of the texts in Prakarana Granthas, they start first with knowledge of what is eligibility. That eligibility meant having these qualities. And having these qualities means they don't come by birth, they don't come out of fluke, they don't come out of coincidence, they don't come out of accident, they come by practice. And that practice, what is it, is also not really specific. Ye karo, fir ye karo, fir ye karo. They are only giving us ideas, definitions. And these definitions are indicative. They are not really telling us how. Mind control. What is Shama? The very first thing, Shama is mind control. How do you do mind control? What is mind control? What is mind? When does it become control? Etc. etc. You have to go through all before study of the Vedanta. Means those little practices which otherwise your Karam Kand following, means all your religious practices would have cultured your mind. Today, because we don't have those religious practices, we have Vedantic knowledge without a cultured mind, much cultured mind. And I cultured, don't take it in the English term of the culture. I'm a very cultured person, and because I eat well and I sleep well and I have the etiquettes. That's not the culture I'm talking about. It's the cultivation. So, Mano Nigraha means a person's capacity to actually control the mind. The control of their own mind is with them. A question was asked, can we do more on Antakaranam? We will be taking Antakaranam as the text proceeds. There is a whole section on Antakaranam. There the mind and buddhi, everything will be taken up in great details. We are going to take it up at that time. Here the context is what is relevant and important so that you don't shift the focus into knowing something more. Here the focus is on learning Shama as a quality for practice. You don't need too much to know more about it. Mano Nigraha means my capacity. I like these English terms or the Hindi terms. My capacity to grow calm, to stop the flow of thought. When we get angry, I know everybody gets angry. If anybody says I don't get angry, then maybe the right situation hasn't still come. But there's definitely going to be anger, some little anger in everybody. Otherwise, you're a jnani. You're already an enlightened person. If there is anger, जब गुस्सा आना शुरू होता है, तो कैसे निकलता है? It's like our example is, if you live on a high-rise building, and you have spiral stairs, escape route stairs, fire escape stairs. Most of them are spiral. Or you have stairs which are, you throw the ball from the highest floor on the stair. What happens to the ball? And you throw it with a velocity. Do you expect the ball to go one step at a time? Nicely, gracefully. Go one step at a time. When you throw the ball from a high-rise building on the steps, which are otherwise spiral, or even if they are other way, the ball will go, you may have dropped it with force at the first step, but it'll jump and it'll go to the third step, it'll go to the sixth step, it'll go to the 12th step, it'll just quickly keep going down. That going down of the ball means how quickly the ball has gone out of our control. Now, you can pick it up in the first step, on the third step, but the ball has its own momentum by gravity and the weight of the ball. How quickly does it go down? And after some time, you find that you and the ball have a lot of distance between them. Now you can't catch the ball. Mind and thoughts are something like that. Your thoughts, like in anger, जब वो निकलते हैं तो ऐसे स्पीड पकड़ते हैं, ऐसे पट 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 छूटते हैं, that even when you know you should be controlling, mostly you get to know that you should be controlling and have a value to control it, is only when you have some spiritual goal in life. Most of the times, anger is how I should control because someone else tells me, but you don't really value it to know that you should put your effort to control it. Now, when the ball is off, the thoughts are off. Mano nigraha means how soon have you brought the ball back to you? Gussa to aaya, swabhavik hai. There'll be reasons that are said later on, like the Gita says, every time a desire interrupts, that interruption of the desire is the cause of anger. Now, but natural, we are desire-ridden people. We have many, many desires in our life, and every time a desire gets obstructed, गुस्सा आता है. जब गुस्सा आता है, तो मन, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है उस वक्त. अगर आप अपने आप को देख सको, so you realize that you are almost a different person than you are when, say, you are with a close friend with whom you have a lot of fun and joy, and you're a different person with different people. जो गुस्से वाला इंसान है, आप ही निकले, वो इंसान दूसरे इंसान के साथ नहीं है. Your capacity to bring your mind back to your own self, to reclaim its peaceful state, to become peaceful again, to become its shant swabhav again. That capacity is called mano nigraha. Control the mind means you direct the mind. You harness the mind. You are watchful of the thought. It's basically thought control. It's basically thought management. So, as we did in the other example, the senses are the ones that are connected to the mind. The senses are connected to their objects, respective objects. There is a pull and a push between senses and the objects. खिंचता है. इंद्रियां अपने विषयों को खींचती है. In other words, विषय इंद्रियों को खींचते हैं, और इंद्रिय मन से जुड़ी है, तो इंद्रिय मन को खींच लेती है. So you find that the mind of an average person is running helter-skelter, is everywhere and anywhere, but centered. So your capacity to claim the quietude back, the first capacity is shamaha. That is your inner wealth. How soon are you able to bring your mind to its peaceful nature? There are some kind of disturbances. I remember when I started teaching very many years ago, at that time, many people would say some old past experience of their life and they're still disturbed even after 15 years, 10 years. The mind would get disturbed at the thought of it. जब याद आती बात कोई या किसी ने कुछ कहा, फिर से मन या दुखी हो जाता है या डिप्रेस्ड हो जाता है या गुस्सा आता है या कुछ होता है, बट मन डिस्टर्ब्ड हो जाता है, मन अशांत हो जाता है. How soon can you bring your mind to your peaceful state? That is your spiritual yardstick. That is your how much have you grown as a person that you can bring the mind back to its peaceful state. Very easy to say, I understand this. बहुत अच्छा, सुनने में भी बहुत ठीक ठाक लगता है ना, बट जब हम करना शुरू करते हैं, you realize that our mind has made us a complete, क्या कहते हैं, slave to itself. हमारी मर्जी से नहीं चलता हमारा मन, हम अपने मन की मर्जी से चलते हैं. To the extent हम अपने मन की मर्जी से चल रहे हैं, most of us को तो फर्क भी नहीं दिखता इसके अंदर, बट धीरे धीरे शास्त्र अध्ययन से हम देखने लगते हैं कि most often हम अपने मन के साथ बहते हैं, मन हमारे साथ नहीं चलता है. That claiming it back is called shamaha. For shamaha, many times I said, होता ये है that the thought has raced off and now I can't control it. The ball has already gone to the 12th step. I'm still on the 3rd step and I find that I'm not going to be able to reach fast. Then came the second point, which was damaha. And damaha meant how you would quickly control it at the level of the senses itself. इंद्रिय को रोक लो. सबसे अच्छी क्वालिटी है मन को रोक लो. जब मन नहीं रुक पाया तो कम से कम इंद्रिय रोक लो. एंड इंद्रिय को रोकने का मतलब है that these indriyas, I said in passing, are actually what you see in the physical sense is just the physical gross instrument. आंख अपने आप में जो हमें दिख रही है, this is just the, it's called golaka, it's called an organ. But indriya word refers to its respective counterpart in the mind, which gets rippled every time the organ gets stimulated. So that indriya nigraha, chakshuradi indriya nigraha, has two parts to it. One is mind control, means I have all the indriyas under my control. But when one of them has become loose and I need to control it, the second step at it is I control it at the level of the indriya, which means I am able to hold the ripple, the sensory ripple, I'm able to control it over there and I do not get carried away by it. The technique of it that Shastra said is, in Shamaha, I am also constantly taking the other definitions which are coming in the other text, Prakarna Grantha Viveka Chudamani, and you find these two are both said to be Shankaracharya's, but both of them give slightly different definitions, meanings to the word Shama and Dama. While inner qualities are Shama, Dama, Adi, Shataka, Sampatti, Sadhana Chatushtayam, basic of Vedanta is you must have these four. And as I said, since it is not explained what are these four, There are different Prakarana Granthas that help us understand them. And these two Prakarana Granthas, you find the two authors have given slightly different meanings to the same Sadhana Chatushtaya. Viveka Chudamani said Shamaha means, how do you mentally control it? He says you bring the tranquility by detaching the mind. Virajya. Virajya means usko disconnect कर दो. मन जो बहना शुरू हो गया है उसको डिस्कनेक्ट करो अपने विषयों से. Whichever object has taken the mind away. And the method to it was dosha drishtaya muhurmuho, by constantly finding the flaw. Dosha drishti. I said before, if you've been hearing it carefully, dosha drishti is not to be taken like people take in the world. और ये तो हमेशा किसी दोष ढूंढते रहते हैं, you know, हर चीज में दोष दिखता है इनको. Actually, dosha drishti from Vedantic standpoint and from spiritual growth is a very objective process. Dosh means that I impose something that I said about Pratipaksha Bhavna and Vairagyam in that context. When I'm imposing the Shobhana over something, instantly my capacity to see that this cannot be the whole, this cannot be full, my happiness resides inside. It cannot be outside. So the minute I start seeing things in actuality, in its reality, as is, that means I'm beginning to control the mind. जैसी चीज है वैसी देखना. दोष दृष्टि means find the inadequacy of that object or being which is carrying my mind away. Means see it in its relative sense. Like in English, or you would see it in some self-help programs, you may hear it sometimes. You know, nobody's perfect. Why we may hope for perfection. We want perfection. We look for perfection in the world. We want absolutely, you know, a beautiful, perfect experience. My mind goes to the example of, for people who love, you know, for that fine dining experience. That fine dine experience, where does it start from? How your table is laid. That creaseless tablecloth on it also is contributing to fine dining. If fine dining is going to be a value for you, how much you will pay for it and work for it, and a temporary experience. Even when I'm saying it, I'm already using dosha drishti in the example. That my mind will say, how much will you go through this for a temporary experience of called fine dining? And what is fine dining? It's an introductory sensory experience. Fine dining is entirely an illusion. Candles have to be at the right height and all that, you know, etc. That violin music playing at the side and those courses one after another and and you're enjoying it with a particular kind of a person or for a few set of people. And all this is supposed to contribute at the end of that, I had a nice experience. How much will you go through it? People are asking all the time, which is a nice restaurant where we can take our, like, dosha drishti means what? Finding is it going to be ever perfect? That means if I find a crease on the tablecloth, have you not seen people get agitated about it? Those who have a value for it. It's very interesting to observe how small can a reason be to diminish the experience of so-called fine dining. How much does it take to diminish the value? One small crease or one small course which didn't go as expected, or the person didn't serve with the smile and, you know, flattered you and things like that. All those things have to fit together for it to become a fine experience. Dosha drishti means just finding, is it really, truly perfect? If the tablecloth is not laid as is, will not the experience change? I found the dosh of that want of happiness. that want of experience कि कितना conditional है ये, इस condition को मैं अगर mentally भी shift कर दूं, not physically, before that physical experience, if I even shift it mentally, I find that my experience value has changed. What is Shama is constantly, I'm reminding myself at the same time when I say this, it is meant for people who wish spiritual growth. Your capacity to constantly diminish this exaggeration of experiences in yourself. Having done that, your mind should come back to what its objective was. Swalakshye niyata avastha. In its own set objective, the mind must come back to it. Then manasaha shama uchyate. Then shama it is called. When the mind has come back to its own set objective, by perceiving the flow of the thought flow which went away with the sensory objects and experiences, you withdrew from that, you recalled it back, saw the flow, and placed the mind back in its place. Do you get this? Is clear? Like say I see a very beautiful object, ice cream. Ice cream, ice cream, ice cream for ice cream. The minute I see ice cream, because ice cream. Ice cream, I see ice cream and my mind, ice cream, yo. The minute I say nothing wrong in it, it's a legitimate thing, it's just an example. Please don't say that means we should not have ice creams. Of course, I have all the ice creams of the planet and that's not the point. Not having it is not the point. The point is, the minute I say ice cream, and then you remember the doctor's prescription, you have a terrible sore throat, and the doctor said avoid ice cream for 1 week, and suddenly the prescription comes in mind, and that's the time. Otherwise, the ice cream is perfectly fine. But now the doctor said 1 week, avoid sour things and avoid cold things because you have a sore throat. It'll get bad if you have it. If you don't pay heed to it, it'll go bad. Now what happens? Now I know I need to restrain it, but my mind is screaming ice cream. होता है ना ये रोज रोज जिंदगी में कुछ ना कोई एग्जाम्पल में यही तो हो रहा होता है. Now I know I should be I have the prescription in front of me. I should be following it, but my mind says एक बार खाने से क्या फर्क पड़ता है? How does it matter? Doctors तो बोलते रहते हैं, वो तो लिखते रहते हैं. They need to write because otherwise, let me have one. Okay, one. Finally, what do we settle down on? One bite, one lick. You need to give that mind a little experience for the mind to get quiet again. It's actually a very beautiful example. I don't know how much am I able to convey this and communicate this. I don't know. I'm trying my level best. The beautiful aspect of mind control. Without this, a human being cannot be a human being. And Shastra does wonder how we call ourselves human beings, because we don't have controls over our own equipments. So the minute the mind went out, first, what did we do? Because now I am not able to stop it at the mind, I'm stopping it at the level of the Indriya. Mostly people stop it at the level of Dhamma. Ideally, you should stop it. Who's a greater, superior growth in yourself? You stop it at the level of the mind. Doctor said, nothing doing. You don't get attracted to ice cream in that week. But if you are still holding its value in the mind, because you never diminished it in the mind, you are at least stopping it at the level of the Indriya. But some people will not stop it at the level of the Indriya. So what are they doing? They are having one lick, one bite, then I won't have the whole ice cream. 1 spoon. It's my favorite ice cream. How does 1 spoon matter? See how the reasoning works. Now, Dhamma and Shama. Ideally Shama Dhamma, but at least in practice you started from Dhamma Shama. You start with the sensory regulation. And sensory regulation here, what we understand is stopping the physical senses from contacting its objects. But ideally, it is done at the level of the mind itself. That particular weakness, I work on it at the level of the mind. I neutralize by constantly seeing the dosha. That is Shama. And then Dhamma Vivekachudamani says, when you are, similar thing, you are withdrawing it. I'm just rephrasing the example. You are withdrawing the urge for ice cream, consciously withdrawing it, and you are keeping it in its own center. The taste is left at its own center. Means the taste doesn't go out only. You know, how much we see when we see something nice, if I have a weakness for it, ice cream example, I see an ice cream and you know how we do that? Yum. Saliva. The thought of it, the word of it, you know, goes like that. When it goes like that means it's gone from the center. I've still not had it. I've still not contacted it. I hope you get this point. It's a very subtle point. I've still not eaten the ice cream. But lack of Dhamma meant that my Indriyas already got activated. I've already said, ah. And then I will say, then your friend, if it's a good friend, nahi khana. Doctor said no. Or if you're a parent, you'll say to your child, or if you're a child, your parent is saying no. Somebody around wiser is saying, you are not supposed to have it. Don't have it. Like so many people in the present context, I think the good example would be, what corona, mujhe to nahi hota. And mujhe kuch nahi hoga. You know? So, yeah, nahi hoga. Good, nahi hoga, nahi hona chahiye. Go stand in front of one who's already got it. Tab bolo mujhe nahi hoga. No, there will have to be certain restrictions or conditions that you will put to yourself. Nahi hoga to of course only because you take conditions, you take restrictions. What that attitude of saying that Indriya when it's activated, you know, that has already gone to the level of your physical need. Mark the words. If your Indriyas got activated, it will already slip into a physical need. It wants a physical experience. If it needs that physical experience, you know, means your Indriya was activated. So the minute you said, so if you come from outside, as children when we came home and mother had cooked something really delicious and the whole house is smelling of it, Rajma chawal. The minute you enter home also, when you smell after school, you come back hungry, you know, throwing your bag here, there, and you say, Rajma chawal, you forget about washing your hands or, you know, changing your uniforms and things, and you go straight to the dining table. Indriyas got activated. As a child, correct. What happens, Shastra says, even we continue this even as adults. Our Indriyas are not regulated. They are not regulated because where are we given a higher goal of life? They need regulation if you have a higher goal of life, if there is a higher purpose of life. If there's no higher purpose of life, then like any other animal or bird or anything, you will be born, you will grow, you will hath pair marke, you will feed yourself, you will have some enjoyments, you will seek enjoyments, there'll be sorrows, there'll be griefs, there'll be depressions, there'll be anger, there'll be fear, there'll be everything, everything becomes a part of life, and then you will grow old and then you will die, or by some unseen circumstances, something will happen, and ultimately everyone will bye-bye. Everyone dies. Eternity doesn't belong to the body. But if you have a higher goal, and Vedanta has said, I said it in my first class, if your human value has a greater worth than just being born and dying, if you can find a better purpose to live, if you can discover What is the real worth of life? For that, you will need all the control, because everything is not necessary for life. So wherever it is sanctioned, it's okay if it doesn't interfere. But the inner wealth is when you need it, it should be there. You should have the capacity to stop. That means if the doctor said no ice cream, I don't think about ice cream for 1 week. I don't know how much we relate to this. And if we do, this is beautiful, this is wonderful, then you already are moving on to the next level of practices. But if you find yourself not able to be holding back, especially because in that 1 week, डॉक्टर ने कहा नहीं है, तो उस हफ्ते में तो ज्यादा थॉट आता है आइसक्रीम का, क्योंकि उसने कहा अब नहीं खा सकते तो अब मुझे खाना है। अगर मेरा मन वैसा है कि अब उस वक्त तो मुझे ज्यादा ही खाना है, अभी तक तो थॉट जाता ही नहीं था, बट डॉक्टर ने लिख क्या दिया कि यू कांट हैव आइसक्रीम, नाउ आई वांट एन आइसक्रीम। Up to somehow, and that struggle to resist, and then that push from inside, and the struggle to resist and push, and we get the excitement of life out of this. We just get our own excitement, our own kick out of हाँ नहीं, and we joke with our friends and we do everything that's possible. But ideally, Shastra says, if you're not supposed to have, the thought doesn't go there. There is no thought. That is called control. That is stopping at the level of Indriya. If you can't, so means you hold it back where it is supposed to be. The sense object can remain in front. Ice cream can be in front of you, but it is not translated into a physical sensation which you need to control. I hope we can see the difference, because it is not, that's where the question of suppression came. If you will just stop it at the level of the physical Indriya, but keep the mind active, then you will definitely feel a loss of something. Kuch miss ho gaya, mera kuch chhoot gaya, I'll be unhappy because I didn't have an ice cream. I hope everybody translates the ice cream experience into something else. It's just a simple example to convey something more. It happens at every Indriya, so your tongue is also one of the Indriyas. So at all Indriyas it's applicable. That was Dhamma. Dhamma means withdrawing the senses from their sense objects and retaining them in their own respective centers. And what is the faida of it? What is the advantage of it? Why do it? Because that's the way you find the peace holds itself. There is mental peace. Why is mental peace necessary? Because you will realize later on it's how important it is for a quiet mind, and only quiet does Vedantic practice really start of Shravanam. Hearing the Vedantic text, hearing what is your true nature about. When you listen to what is your true nature, if you already have a cultured mind, that cultured mind will, the minute you hear it, it will reflect. Your mind becomes a means of reflection of who you really are, and you identify it. But in a mind which is ragadveshi and etc., then it has, the words do not penetrate enough for them to reveal the meaning. So Shamadama Adi Sadhana Chatushtayam, they are practices, sadhana. Shama Dhamma, and we started last class with Uparama. This Uparama means once you have Shama and Dhamma, and now the mind is holding where it is supposed to, Tattva Bodha Shankara has defined it as Swadharma Anushtan, doing, observing your duties. Means while your mind is kept in its state of control, as much as this means not too excessively ragi and dveshi, not too excessively involved with the world and objects, not too excessively demanding from inside experiences of the world and happiness from the world. It's not demanding my attention much. Then what do I do? He says, this author says, keep doing what is your swadharma. What are your duties? So keep the mind in a state of relative peace, tranquility, by not indulging in the thoughts or the sense objects and the pleasures of the senses, and then engage yourself in doing what you should be doing. What are your duties? Observing one's own duties. And we said last time, two kinds of duties, samanya and vishesh. Samanya means basically all general, everything. I don't hurt anyone, I don't steal, etc. General values of life. Vishesha is more specific to what your context of life tells you to do now. Whatever it demands of you to do, whether you like it or not, you should be doing it. So keeping yourself doing things whether you like them or not, but because you should be doing them. The best example would be our health workers, many of them, especially initially, I know few of them, how much they wanted to also stay at home. When you come from a medical profession and you realize it's a dilemma, should you go out or should you not go out, when you know nothing about what's happened, they so wanted to not also see patients. There are so many of them who went through this conflict. As a doctor, you're supposed to be out there. But as one who's got their families, who's also got, they did not want the risk of exposure. Yet, your duty called you to do something. A soldier, his duty calls him to do something. Etc. A businessman, his duty calls him to do something. A student, his duty calls him to do something. Farmer, his duty calls him to do something. Everyone has a certain duty to do, whether I like or I don't like. At that time, if I am able to tell myself, things may not always be going along with what I like, but I still have things to do. If I just do what I'm supposed to do, that contributes to tremendous indirect culturing of the mind. I'm going to keep myself at these two words, culturing of the mind. And tomorrow I'll probably take up similar way of explaining neutrality of the mind. Keeping myself neutral. Not too much here and there. Not attached, not indifferent. Neutral. It's a great practice. I'm neutral. I'm a friend to all, enemy to none, but I am not a friend to all in the sense that I have specific high values of some things, because mostly you would find you only value a person because they give you something back, etc. So Vishesha Dharma would mean something that is specific to you, your own call of duty, rising to your call of duty, whether you like it or you don't like it. That is Vishesha Dharma. There'll be more. I will do it up. We'll take up tomorrow, because Swadharma I will also take up more in the traditional sense. What I have said today is how it is to be taken in today's context. But Swadharma was easier to understand in the context in which it arises. So we'll just mention it for whatever its sake to complete the vision and the topic. We'll continue with this tomorrow, and just do the Shanti. Sadashiva Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. Next time, whoever's chanted first can also do the Shanti mantra at the end. Start doing it. That's where my mind went in.
The broadcast of Facebook Live.